Hello, everyone, and welcome to chapters 11 and 12. We're going to do zone offense, and we're going to do end of game time situations, inbounds plays, and such. So, we're first talking about zone offense. Now, I call it zone attack, and I use it in my motion offense. That's not the only way to do that, so we're going to show you some other ways here that we would run a zone offense here. So the basics of zone offense: to exact a zone a defense, usually you want to choose a formation that is to create an offensive opportunities for your players. In our book here, there are tons of offensive plays and sets that you can do. He has one called Drift. He has different kind of fundamentals and stuff here. And probably the biggest concept here is you want to dribble penetrate, use skip passes, you can screen and communicate effectively to get into the holes of that zone. So, for example, if you're playing a 2-3 zone, you want to try to dribble penetrate. You want to try to dribble penetrate in between these places to hopefully draw two defenders. From there, you would then kick out to somebody else, make two more quick passes in order to get somebody open. Another one I've seen used against my teams is they like to set somebody right here in what I call the nail, and they will try to pass the ball around and then try to get the ball into that high post. The most effective thing I've seen out of that is either a down pass to another post player, or they catch and immediately go opposite, and that's usually killed my zone. There's only two teams that have really whooped my zone. One was Forest Lake Academy, and they just did that exact thing. They had a guy running baseline to post to post here, and a guy post to post here, and they just had such quick ball movement that my zone couldn't react fast enough. We ended up being a reactive defense instead of an acting defense there. All right, so here is our book. He calls this one the drift offense, and it's designed to have players drift into the holes in the zone. So maximize drifting into open spaces, starting on a two-guard front, so this top one up here. So two-guard front, they would want these players to drift into these holes. Now, rarely have I seen a 2-3 zone where they're stacked three across the baseline down here. I don't usually see. Usually your wings are going to be further out, but we'll go with it. So by reversing the ball to other sides, dribble penetrate, skip passes are all things that you want to do there. So they have them dripping in here. So this is the same formation, except they move the 4 up to the high post. And I would tell my players, drift around here, finding open space. So when you're playing against a 3-2 zone, 1-2-3-2, they put an odd person around and had him at this guy's probably running from here to here. So they're trying to swing around, and then this guy's probably trying to post up on this guy, is what I would be trying to do with them here. I tend to do a lot of this against a 3-2 zone. Now, Rio Lindo runs a 3-2 zone most of the time, so I prep for this a lot. Theirs 3-2 ends up looking more like this. And so we attack the high post or the nail. The other thing I'll do a lot of is Laker cuts. So we'll pass to the wing over here, post this guy up, and when this guy goes baseline, you can usually get a layup going that direction. So advanced drift explores other things. So this is where they kind of script a few options here. So dribble penetration up here. So pass to the top, and this guy dribbles and tries to draw two defenders. So if he can get both of these guys to come, the wing would then be probably sucked in on here and pass it out. Now my zone, I would actually leave the guy further out, and my 5-man would come across, and I'd leave another wing here. So when they do get that, he's going to hedge, he's going to come out, and then he would fall back, and we have two guys covering the post again. I do have, there's a couple of one here. So this one would be a screen across kind of play. come across screen, and come across. I've played on this one a lot over time. Oh man, this one up here, I have run. Actually, I didn't run it very often, but our girls' team did. They called it Spartan. So on the pass here, the low screen or the low man would pop to the high post. The high post would pop down, and you'd be amazed how many times they would pass to here and just pass and either get a jumper right there or then go high low. And against low level girls high school basketball, ooh man, that one just whooped everything. So reversal looks like a way of trying to get post position. And so what I would have here is I'd have my more offensive person on this side coming across, and my more rebounder going this direction to be the screener. So as we swing the pass, I have my best post player coming to the ball. And this action here also works well against man to man. All right, so some zone strategies. So versus an odd front. So actually that's not curly four players. Never mind. So the offense I ran in grade school, we would have the four-man flash out, and then the five would come across. So we'd pass, pass, and then the five-man would be over here. So I'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, and generally you'd have a wing, a center, and a guard on this half of the floor. So you'd have 4 on 3 on this half. And so that's what you're trying to do when they talk about overload tactics to try to get in a successful position. So innovative zones would be something like what I run, so things that are a little off. And you can look in your book here. Type 4 shield is a continuity offense. That's what my team ran in grade school and early high school. And on the swing back here, this guy would kind of slide out and then slide up to the high post. And we would just swing it back, look for him here. And then if he wasn't there, he would pop back out to here, and we'd run the same action on the other side. Center would come across, and then he'd come cut underneath. We called it 1Z. Scored a ton of points off of such a simple action in a continuity type offense there. So here's what my offense looks like against zone. So this would be our read and react. So we have 3 out, and then we run a 2 in, but we run it inside the 3-point line. And it's something I've said so many times this morning. Closer to the 3-point line than you are to the lane box here. It's this little box. So on the pass, this person will cut to what I call the nail. And then these guys would rotate. And so from here, I would then have, I'd have 1 out, I'd have a high post, a nail, is what I would call this, and a flank. This guy would be here. So the ball would be in this person's hands. And his hope is that he's going to get what I would call a buddy system. Pass to the high post, and then this guy would flash. Or vice versa. Pass to this is what I call the flank. I call this the nail. Pass to the flank, and then this guy comes in. And then actually, I've also had a lot of times I would just make the nail or flank, and this guy would just run. I scored so many baskets on girls basketball using that. That's the first one. So we'd have nails and flanks, so the first one. The other one we kind of talked about in earlier is what I would call a pin screen. So I would have this guy dribble at. These two would come screen, screen. We really struggled on this morning. Come across here, and then he's going to make a skip pass over to this side. From there, I'd have my 2 screeners, 1 and 1. This guy would then slide to the nail. This guy would slide to the flank. If nothing happens, I would have this guy pop back out. The rules in our offense is the skip pass here has the option of flashing middle. And I've definitely had this guy come here, pop out, and then this guy comes late to the nail and pass it in there. And then same nail and then flash middle for nail for buddy system kind of score there. So that's another way I can get that. So one that was really successful for me last year, and especially against that 3-2 zone, and they were saying screen the zone. This is another one that's a little more unconventional. As we would come down and we would actually screen the top of the zone. And we would leave this guy on this side here. So he would come, he'd screen off. He would roll. If we could get to the rim, awesome. If the wing came over, this guy would be pushing, push or pull. And we'd have a jumper over here. If he gets stopped by the second guard, it was a dump pass to here. And then our big man could beat almost every big guy in the tournament. And we came back on Escondido from about 20 points down between our press and this pick and roll start. I call it red. So I'd call it red stripes. So it means pick and roll to start the offense. Works really well against a 3-2 zone. Because when you get to hit past this first guy, it's like which one of these two comes up. And sometimes both come up to stop the ball. Pass, buddy system, layup. Made a lot of those again.
Gracias. Boom, boom. Cut.
Last year. We talked about nails or flanks. Or we talked about pin screens with dribble up, dribble down. So back to just the basic concept here. So we're going to copy that one and just go that kind of innovative concept. So what we do is we try to have somebody in the high post and somebody in the short corner at all times. Whoop. So on the pass up, this guy will then cut, this guy will fill, and this guy would fill out. So the ball would be now up top. And I now have a person on this side and on this side, ball here. On this pass over, this guy's going to bounce out, this guy's going to fill up, this guy's going to fill the high post. And again, looking for the nail and the flank. Nail's the high post. Flank is over on this edge. So like your go-to move, like if you're a boxer, like your go-to move is like your jab, jab, jab. And then if that doesn't work, then you use the pin screen.
This is where I want the cutter to go. This is the nail. Hold up. We've got to hit him. Go back. Show me exactly where you were. Go ahead and take the ball like we really will. They really will in a game, okay? I don't care where you are. I wish I had bigger spots than this. But this time he was right here doing a jumping jack, and we don't hit him, okay? So we've got to hit him. If this guy's going to play like this, we've got to hit him, okay? Go ahead. Throw to him. And here's what happens 99% of the time. He steps. There it is, okay? Bounce, touch, whatever, okay? Just find an open area when you cut into there. See if the ball can see you. Right there.
Good.
Good job. Very good from any spot. Positionless basketball. If we stop right there, you have a compact, basic zone practice mode. Now, I don't know how much time you have to devote to your zone attack, but if you spent only 4 minutes on each of those 5 drills, you would send a 20-minute message to your team. Here's the message. This is how we play. This is how we attack zones. These are the areas that we cut to and pass to in order to try to get layups. We keep the ball out of high trapping areas like the corner. You send that message indirectly, just by where you're going and not going. When we dribble, it's with a purpose, to screen the zone, to make the zone switch and rotate. And while we're working on it, while we're working on these drills, these 20 minutes basic drills, 2 teams of 5, 10 players, also get in 240 shots and 560 passes. Now, before we move on to stuff good players should know, in his chapter called Equiangular Triangles. Now, you could have said equilateral as well, because they're both the same. I just want to point out first that just this formation, okay, we have triangles, pretty close to equilateral, equiangular triangles, okay? Now, what good is this, okay? Here's what I mean. Here's how you can use this principle if you talk to your players about it, that you're always trying to form equilateral or equiangular triangles, okay? I'll give you an example here. If you pass and you cut to the nail. First of all, I just want to point out here that we're talking about forming, again, that equilateral triangle, okay? When this player fills, there's your equilateral triangle. When this player fills, we have another triangle over here, so we're creating triangles. Now, again, what good is that? Well, give you an example. Let's say you dribble down, okay? And this player goes through. We got the double pin screen. The ball is skipped. This player doesn't shoot, doesn't drive, doesn't feed the post. Okay, what do these 2 players do? They should form equilateral triangles with each other in the ball. That tells this player to step here. That tells this player to pop. There's your triangle. That's how you can use this. Okay? Give you another example. Let's say you are dribbling up. Okay, well, this player cuts, this player fills. Hey, on the weak side here, we've got another triangle, right? An equilateral triangle. But over here,
go across to the other side. So continuity offenses, as I say, I've ran those before, and there's a couple of them in your book if you want to look them up. Man, you have a Hall of Fame level coach that's giving you basically his entire playbook here. Great resource. Save this book for whenever you do start coaching. So wheel is a play he has in there. Counter would be the opposite of wheel, if I remember right. Cutters create balanced player movement, similar to what I like to use. And then there is a time for sure to have set plays to try to get the play that you want or the action that you want with your team. So zone offense rotations. So what they're saying here is rotate the ball from 3 to 1. Well, the opposite of the zone, it's the 5-man cuts there. And there's a whole play in there if you look at his continuity offense. And this would be all more explained a little easier. So I run this. I call it Falcon. We picked this up in the middle of a game one day. So when we start our offense, I say start the ball on the side. And we're going to, Falcon is going wing to wing. Also, my team's name is Falcons. That's why I use it. I'm horrible with names. So the first pass comes to here. Second pass comes to here. First pass, guy cuts. And then this guy is going to fill. Second guy is actually going to basically do a 180 and come back out. But what we're looking for is I would usually put like my best player in this position or my best passer from the high post. And so I'll have him come across quickly to try to get this guy.
Gracias. Boom, boom. Cut.
They're saying the so as he was saying, rotate the ball from 3 to 1. So some people would say this would be 3, this would be 1 and 2. So rotating from 3 to 1 to 2, and then trying to look for that nail or flank. And this actually comes from an offense, or the action, I actually kind of stole it off of a team that beat me when I was at Thunderbird. And this team against my 3-2 zone, or against my 2-3 zone, come on, ran this action. They would pass to here, and they always had somebody in the high post, and then somebody down kind of in the low post. When the pass went to the wing, this guy would go opposite, this guy would pop up, and this guy would come over here. And for some reason, my team could not figure out until the second half, when we were already down 15, 20 points, that this guy was going to pop up, and my guard would be on ball like this, and then my wing would be over here, center wing. My guard would always go with him, and they would just pass it under, and now we're scrambling. Center comes up, wings come down, and we just couldn't beat that. It was so annoying. So I took that action and put it into my motion offense to try to get this running out or coming from the back or the weak side as quick as I could. And so now I call Falcon action out. All right, so a couple more plays here from our textbook before we go on to some inbounds plays and end of game plays. So this one here is called Power. Notice how high up this is. So they're playing all above the free throw line here. And so they come over and do a screen, so on the weak pass over here, we do a weak side screen. He's going to the corner. He's now coming to the block. He comes to the block. And then pops up. So my 3-man ends up here after coming down, popping up. He's going to then, in the high post, immediately look opposite to the point guard who's cut down and cut up. And then you're going to end up with this kind of like screen, the screener action coming over the top here. I would love to actually figure out if this actually would work. So maybe we'll try this in class tomorrow for fun, just because I want to see what this looks like in a game and see what it does against a zone defense. So some drills to practice this. So what they're saying here is for a 3-2 zone or a 1-2-2 zone, they would put a manager in each corner, and they would put 3 out with a 2-guard front. And so the manager, this guy would run over, make a pass, and then from here, he's going to try to attack this gap to get these 2 players in. He'd probably pitch up to this guy who would then try to drive again. If that doesn't work, pass to the manager, peel out, and try again, trying to penetrate in between the zone players. So that would be perimeter drill. Post drill. So you have a coach up top who would alternate, pass to the side, and then this guy's either going to come on top and try to post up. The manager's going to either pass here for a jump shot, or when these guys both rotate over, then we'd be looking for the post up on this side. And if you can make the pass here, probably this opposite of these 3 would be supposed to drop down, so it's almost like a wheel pulling, very similar to man-to-man concepts for defense there. All right, this drill I have run a lot. I usually run it more for for the defense than the offense. So I would start them out a little farther, and you're kind of past the wing, come over to here. This guy guards the high post. Sometimes I'd even put a 4th guy here in the middle, or a coach maybe even, as you're alternating. But what he's going for here in the offensive version of this is with your 2-guard front, and then inside the 3-point line, you're trying to pass to the top and then drive the gap. Pass to the wing, drive the gap. And you'll be trying to work that kind of drill back and forth. So looking for gaps and looking for step-up jumpers. So if I can step into it, great, or maybe curl up, drive, kick, jump shot were the things you would do that. I'd love to see his actual drill being run on video. I looked it up on YouTube and couldn't find it. All right, so the next chapter is going to be about clocking out of inbound situations. So it's basically a ton of plays with a few concepts here. So strategies for closing minutes of the game is what this chapter is about. So here's the areas that we were going to go through. So clock and inbound situations. So having good strategies for fast break, half court, and then the last part of that would be special situations with clock considerations are ways that you're going to win a successful game. So if you're at the end of a game when it's really close, that's when you need to be able to execute at the very end. And that's where I do have some set plays that I run for my teams. So having mental concentration, knowing your team's patterns, knowing who your best free throw shooter in the closing minutes is also really important. Man, one offensive board can win a game. It was my Thunderbird year. We went to Southwestern for the tournament, and probably my second buzzer beater in my career came off of about mid-range jumper. He drove like one dribble pull up, and it went weak side. And my freshman, he's 5'11" freshman, grabs, pivots, or gets the offensive rebound, pivots, and puts it back in as the buzzer goes off. It was just a really happy moment. Whenever it pops up on Facebook on those memories things, I always repost it so that player can see it again. All right, so ways to manage the lead. So I always say I can see it sometimes when a team is winning with 10 minutes to go in the game, and all of a sudden they change what they're doing to try to kill more clock. So they start playing not to lose rather than playing to win. Like, what was working that kept you winning? It got you the lead in the first place. Keep doing that unless the other team forces you to do otherwise. So let's say you have a 4-point lead with 3 minutes to go in the game. So having good offensive threats and being ahead to score. You want to avoid being complacent. So you don't just want to pass it around the top. Generally, you want to go into something else, or you want to keep doing what you're doing. And I just tell my players, be even more picky on what shot you get. Don't get a good shot, get a great shot. If you're having to force it between two guys when you have the lead, it is not worth it. It is not worth the risk. So keep doing what you're doing and get a great shot. So we want high percentage shots near the basket or wide open shots. Depending on where you coach, you may or may not have clock management. In Nebraska and in the Midwest, there's not very many schools, at least at the little academy level that I've coached at, that had a shot clock. So I actually had to have an extra defense to cover that shot clock problem. So one of the things I would have teams do is they would stand with like 3 guys way out here, and I'd stand back here with my defense. And so I had to go with I call it Delilah, where these 2 guys will trap here. If they passed here, then the wing would come up and trap here, and vice versa on the other side. That way I didn't have to switch out of my zone to man-to-man, which I hadn't at the time practiced very much. I'm pretty sure now with the team I have, I could go to man-to-man if I needed to at the end of a game like that. It's just not usually needed. So advise coaches to nurture the aggressive yet controlling the playing style when you have the lead. So basically, keep doing what you're doing. Try to keep and get great shots. All right, so defensive tactics when you have the lead. So strategies here. So when you're trying to protect that lead in the closing, let's call it 3 minutes. This one says in the closing seconds. In the closing 3 minutes, you really want to prevent 3-point shots, and you want to still try to be the actors on defense, forcing the team into an unfavorable spot. So forcing them to their offhand, forcing them to the baseline or the sideline or whatever your coach is doing. Forgot the other day what our coach here currently is doing. One of you guys told me yesterday. I just forgot. So you want to continue to keep pressure on the ball. I'm not sure if I agree with this one, double teaming. I don't know if I really want to purposely double team when I have a 4-point lead there. I would lean much more on don't let them shoot threes and force them into a bad position rather than purposely double teaming, unless they have like a Kobe kind of player or a Kyrie that you just want to make sure it does not make somebody else beat me other than this one player. And the big thing that happens, you'll see in the NBA a lot now, like when James Harden gets the ball, and they'll try to purposely double team him in the last 3 minutes just to get it out of his hands. The other thing that does is that disrupts the opponent's timing. They're used to coming down, they have a rhythm to their offense, and they're trying to get back into it. And when you double something, that gets them out of that. So when you take their best play, and hopefully you'll do all that to maintain your lead. But all this has to be done with coordination. What you don't want to do is at the end of the game here, let's say there's a you shoot and there's a long rebound, opponent's going to this goal, and then two guys randomly try to trap somebody in the back here without team coordination. Because if you put two guys here, two passes, they're going to be by themselves dribbling down the floor and probably have a favorable number situation on this end of the floor. So you only want to have disrupting the timing if your team is doing it all together in that late game situation. All right, so when you're behind, that's when your team has to trail and you've got to come back. So this one talks more about the closing seconds in our book. So I'm going to tell you that Delilah that I came up with. I had read about it in a book. I think it was Jim Boeheim's book, how he talked about trapping the half-court trap as a surprise attack out of a 2-3 zone. So at halftime of a game, we were down. This was against Midland Academy in Kansas City. And this court was the tiniest little court I've ever seen. I mean, the space between the three-point line and the circle here was about 3 feet. So I didn't have to go very far when I wanted to make this trap out of my 2-3 zone. So the moment they dribbled across the lane, or here, these two guys would come up and try to trap. And I knew that this one wasn't probably going to happen, but this guy would panic, throw it to the side. Now this guy's peeling out, this guy's coming up. He stays, he becomes interceptor middle. The center comes over and becomes interceptor sideline. And this guy's waiting for the helium pass either way, whichever it goes. We came from 21 points down in the second half by doing this by itself. We changed what we were doing, emphasizing being really aggressive on defense really helped us get in there. So emphasizing that offensive aggression. And so then the other one our book talks about is being aggressive on offense. So this is where I would be trying to dribble to the hole and get to the foul line. You want to come from behind, you want to get points when the clock isn't running. So get to the line, get free throws, get high percentage shots close to the rim. So all your decisions that you make as a player especially need to be based on time, how many points you're down, and what the defense is doing. That's all the time, but it becomes even more important when you're trying to be the more aggressive team. Oh man, I have seen so many games in the last, let's say, 2 minutes of the game. And they dribble down the court, and they basically try to do, they're down like a minute and a half left. You're down 5. You need a three-pointer to be really good because you know you're only going to get 1 or 2 more possessions left because of how the shot clock works. And this guy just does a step-back 3, shoots it, misses it. Other team grabs the rebound because most three-pointers, spoiler alert, if you miss a 3, most of the time, like more than half, it's going to turn into it's going to be a long rebound and a fast break situation for the other team. So making your three-pointers is first a major point of contention. But when you take a bad 3 early in the shot clock or early in the possession, especially fading back or with a hand in your face, that's not the time to take that early shot clock or early possession 3. If you run the whole play or if you get the ball inside out and now this guy has a catch and shoot 3 with nobody running at him, that's a good 3. But a contested 3 with a step back, oh man. When James Harden started pulling that off, I was coaching at Thunderbird and in Kansas. And man, they would just take stupid 3s trying to beat James Harden. It was like, oh my goodness, guys, you're going to lose. And it was nice when other teams did it to us, but definitely not there. Strategic fouling at the end, knowing I have calls for my teams. I call black. It's the only thing in either offense or defense that I use that color for. Black means foul. And you have to make sure you practice this in your practices, because you can't just grab a guy and expect it to be called a foul. It could be called an intentional foul, then they get free throws and the ball back, which ruins the point. And then you're not going to have a lot of chances. So if you score you immediately want to turn around and foul so that they have to shoot free throws. The lower level you are, the better this works. Also, knowing your scouting report, what player should I be fouling or what player shouldn't I be fouling? All right, so I think pretty much the rest of this part of this section is going to be a bunch of plays. So go take a look at his victory play. Was a pretty good one. At UCLA and 4C. If you want to know more details about that. But you also need to make sure your teams know how to adapt to that play, depending on what offense or defense you're up against. Spoiler alert, for me as a coach, I play a ton of zone. One thing I love to do on the last play of the half or the last play of the quarter where a team calls a timeout, and they go, we're going to run this play. That's when I switch to a different defense. That's when I'll play man for one possession. And usually when they don't get the defense they want, usually just one person ends up driving, and that's where I get into that actor-reactor defense. Man-to-man, force them to their offhand, and they're probably going to get a terrible shot. I've won games just by switching my defense at the last minute. All right, some last-second plays that you need to know. First one would be just quick opponents or strategies. I think I said in a previous one, I really try to have a quick break all game long. Anytime the other team scores, we get it out as fast as possible so they don't have a chance to set up a press. The quicker you can get it out, the better. The other thing is it keeps your team from getting upset at each other because they now have a new focus and they can hopefully ignore what was going on. All right, ladder play. So this would be one to use when you got probably 5 seconds left and you have to go the whole length of the floor. So the inbounder is at the end. After we get a screen, and our goal here is to go 1 pass, 2 pass, and get a corner shot or a corner drive really quick. So his option when he catches this pass here is to either pitch up this way or pitch across, and then either same shot concept here. So variations of this could be different roles within the play. Definitely sharp cuts, good screens. The worst thing you want to have at the end of a game is an illegal screen on the inbounds play. Oh, man. So deep pass first and then breaking open. So something I would definitely be telling these two players is they're not necessarily going to these spots. They are going to an open area, any area that is open in these areas. So this guy might end up coming all the way back here. Hopefully not, because you want to get him going towards the hoop. So deep pass play. I've done something very similar to this, where you basically just go back screen. These guys are going long. I would probably swap this, though. I would probably make my 4-man here and my guard here. And then I'd have this has to be your best baseball player. Whoever can throw a one-handed pass the most accurate. That's the person. And I would even have tests for my teams when I want to know who to be that player. So I'm going to have the passer here. And I would just have a guy running a post route and seeing, can this guy make the pass here? Luckily on my team, my shooting guard is the quarterback of the football team. He's probably going to be my inbounder on these long plays if I get to the end of the game. Screenplay, this is the one. I like this one if you don't have a timeout. And this is one I think I'm going to steal this play from my team. You have no timeouts left, and there's 30 seconds left or something, or let's call it 15 seconds. And the other team scores, and there's like 8 seconds left. Having your point guard come over and grab this. Uh-oh, what happened? All right, so no timeout. And the goal here is to take this defender, whatever defender's here, and basically do a rub screen so that he can go to his dominant hand, so we're usually right hand, and then you run the same thing on the other side. And this actually might end up being like here, 5 and 2-man. Come across here and just go back screen, trying to get a super long pass anywhere around that area. So I probably need to practice this with my teams, run a possession on this end, and then see if we can get this rub screen run middle, and then another rub screen. All right, regular old inbounds play, so not full court ones. The most embarrassing thing you can have into play is when you try to inbound the play and you can't even get the ball in. One that used to get me over the years, so I still run this play. So it's a box formation. I call it a cross because this guy screens, this guy bounces over, this guy screens, bounces over going sideways, this guy reverse pivots. Usually you can make the pass to here, pass up, this guy flashes in, and then the most dangerous person on an inbounds play is the inbounder. And then he curls off and usually gets a three-point shot right there. I've won a couple of games with this. Well, earlier in my career, I had a team that would switch on defense. And so they would just switch this screen and switch this screen. And I could not get the ball in. So I had to come up with other plays to use, which I use a different one now, but I still do run this play just for the experience of being able to run a couple of sets. So the other thing to have is a primary, wow, can't spell, primary and counter plays. Again, Tim Izzo for Michigan State, he is one of the masters of the counter and the primary and the counter. So one I used to run in college, there we go, let's do it on here. So one I used to run in college, so we called it 3 up and 3 down. So you'd have your 3-man passing it in. You'd have a stack of your 4, 5. You'd have your 2 and your 1. This guy would run through. These guys would shut the door, get the pass over here. And that was the general start. Then kick up, come in, and this guy would come out for the 3. So that was 3 up. The counter to this was 3 down. And we'd run this once or twice a game. So instead of running through that screen, he would stop short, screen the 4-man, and he would just peel around. 5-man would peel off, and we'd get a bucket about once a game on that counter. My current team, we run they call it Cyclone, Hurricane. My girls' team called it Bubbles. And the primary one is fill the corner. If it doesn't happen, then you keep filling and filling and filling. But basically, pass to here. These guys are all going to rotate, make the pass back up. Again, the inbounder curls around and gets it back for either a 3-point shot, or then we just start running our offense. My counter to this play is either Hurricane or Tornado. I think my guys changed it this year, but we start shifted over. And this guy, instead of filling first, he cuts straight across and he headhunts whoever is guarding this man. Screen, and usually this guy has come around the low side of the screen. Occasionally he'll go high side, and they'll just forget because we'll lull the team to sleep with the primary, and then the counter will hit them for a bucket later. So here's a couple of them that I liked out of the book. Probably the most popular one is going to be a line setup. So the line here, and you can change the number around whoever these are, but the 1-man goes out, 3-man goes in, make a curl here, and your goal is just to get the ball in to start. Another one would be a box formation, which is what you'll see up here. And I've seen one like this. I've also seen this guy come across and actually do a double screen to come around this way. Several teams have run this very similar action against me, just trying to get your attention, and then they're really trying to get that 3-pointer on the weak side, at least against a zone defense. So zone tactics here. So here's a few of them that our book says to use. I like this one up here because it's kind of a more option style. So 3-man comes in, 5-man pops out, and then 1 and 2 have options. They can fill wherever it is, and I think there would be times that filling middle, and this guy can either go deep or can try to backdoor. I've not seen too many people run this type of stack. Usually these guys are up higher, but in this case, so this would be the screen across like I like to run, and then just 2 people popping. Would be interesting to see what my zone